Macy, welcome to the Founder Society podcast. I'm Haley.
And I'm Meg, and we are so grateful to have Macy Franklin joining us all the way from Macon, Georgia. She is an alive event engraver, calligraphy artist, and beloved bottle painter behind Macy Kendall Co. And welcome, Macy. How are you? Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Hello, hello. It has been a while since we talked, but I'm so happy to be here.
We are so glad to have you. For those of you listening, Macy is near and dear to the Founder Society. She joined us for our second getaway in Charleston. And transparently speaking, Haley and I have been obsessed ever since. And we think you guys are going to know exactly why. Macy, can you just go ahead and give a little bit of a description about what you do so everyone's on the same page with us? And then we're going to run it back to tell your story.
Yes, absolutely. And I will say one little caveat. It is Macy Franklin Temples now. I am married, but a lot of people with my name, my business name, it's all some different pieces, but I do want to put that in there. I know my husband's probably going to be the first listener on this podcast.
Biggest fan. He's at
So
that name.
let me get that out there. Yes. So I am Macy Temples, and what kind of started as a calligraphy business has morphed into so much more. So I do live event calligraphy, engraving, and personalization for brands and brides, really near and far. So I do live events in person where people get something customized on site where they can take home. And then I also do in studio commissions that ship nationwide.
And your work is beautiful. Can you tell us how you got started in this industry in the first place?
Thank you. I have some old journals and I can look back at the old things and I'm like, why would someone ever have bought that? But it has come a long way. So thank you for saying that. I started hand lettering. So there's so many different tiers of what people call calligraphy. I think everyone kind of starts in the world with what's called brush lettering or hand lettering, where you are drawing letters and it's a calligraphy style. And then I started teaching pointed pen calligraphy, like as the old timey, you dip a nib in a pot of ink. And that is like just a really fun, tangible way to add a beautiful calligraphy art to your portfolio. But I've always been a creative, a doodler. Started out growing up. I remember one of my first like entrepreneur journeys, I guess you could say. Do y'all remember those scissors that have like the jagged edge? So you go
Yes.
and it's like a squiggly or something. I made Christmas tags to sell to my family. I was probably like second or third grade, but I would stamp and cut and color and the to from tags that you put on Christmas gifts. I sold to family members. And I remember I can see myself making these. And then several years ago, my grandmother has since passed, but we were cleaning out some stuff and she had kept a pack. And I forgot
Oh,
about that, but she had the pack of like original Christmas tags. So always have been like creative and wanted to do things that kind of transitioned into high school. I cheered, I painted the banners, I did the poster board projects, which kids today I'm sure are all digital, but like the cutting, the gluing, where it all started through college was very like technology oriented. So I think I maybe not lost it, stepped away for a minute. And then in grad school, kind of felt like it was a stressful time in my academics. And I picked up hand lettering and taught myself from a printed book that I bought online. They actually mailed to me, so no iPad, anything like that. But I started doing that really just as a fun outlet and kind of stress relief in 2016, late 2016. So it's on, yeah, going on 9 years now of what started as some little doodles, and here we are.
I love that so much. Like you are a true hobbyist, it sounds. And I feel
Yes.
like our generation is almost lost hobbies somewhere along the way. And I adore the fact that you're a grown adult getting like a mail order calligraphy book sent to you. That is truly fantastic. Now, when you were in college, when all of this fun stuff was happening, what were you studying? What was up with that?
I have always been nerdy. I People would never guess this. Played video games growing up, and I was skateboarding, and so atypical compared to the cheerleader lifestyle I was living. I went to college and cheered also at Mercer University, but I started studying engineering. I was in the School of Engineering, very small private college. had some technical internships. I really liked it, but I actually changed my major to what's called technical communication. So it's bridges the gap, mediates between all of this high tech technical jargon that engineers or whatever subject matter experts use, and I turn it into something that regular people can read, visualize, see. And really, my first job out of school was working Department of Defense. So yeah, it really is a different world from like the art space that I'm in.
I think that's so interesting. And I know you do both. Like, how do you manage switching your like the sides of your brain so much? It sounds like you've always done it, but is that just what you love, or do you like having to focus on two different things and being able to go back and forth?
I truly do love it. And I think it helps me grow on both sides because people, I still work full time. So people in this like aerospace engineering kind of era that I'm in is people like I'll come up with something really creative and that they're like, wow, that's so cool. Like, how did you think of that? And then on the art side, y'all saw I presented about some AI topics and how I use technology in my business on the founders retreat. And people are like, how do you feel so comfortable using technology? So it's really nice now to see how the two can go hand in hand. And we can talk about this later, but I do think a lot of artists are intimidated by or scared to try technology when it comes to their business or learning new stuff. But I feel like I'm making a difference in my full-time job. That's an industry I've always wanted to be in, but I stay very grounded with calligraphy, creativity. It's a lot of nights and weekends and managing time, but I don't think I can do one without the other now.
That's so amazing. And there is a synergy when you're able to use both sides of your brain. And I can just already envision how grateful your coworkers are. Like, Macy, what a bright light in your corporate space. Now, since you brought it up, I want to double down and talk about how you do use technology. For everyone that wasn't on the getaway, we did these like mini TED Talks. How long did we give you? 2 minutes? Like, it was something really
Very
fast, right?
short.
Yeah, it was so short. And Macy wanted to talk to us about AI. And when I say you could have heard a pin drop in the room, everyone like circled around her. She brought up her laptop and just like word vomited for 2 minutes straight. And people were literally taking notes. So now I'm going to bless everyone. Macy, could you please take the floor and just walk us through some of those tips you shared that day? Because I'm sure everyone would just love to know.
Yes, and I'm trying to think back maybe exactly what I shared, but when a lot of people think AI, artificial intelligence is what that stands for, I think what I said on the founders retreat is it also is artist intel, something like
Oh,
that. I made a play on words there, but it's not just what people see in the media, like it's replacing your job and people are losing work over it. It is just such a tool and it's programmed by people. It can't run without people. And no, it's not coming for your jobs, but I use it really not in a creative way. You don't have to plug like art ideas into it, creative ideas, but I use it to help with marketing plans or strategy or SEO topics. Really, it's all about prompts and knowing what to put in. The quality of what you put into any type of generative AI is going to equal getting out good stuff that you can actually use and implement really in any industry.
Yeah, I love it. I love ChatGPT in particular. I treat it like my personal assistant. Can you explain for somebody who's listening and maybe doesn't have as much experience with AI, just to get a little bit deeper, if you were going to use it to maybe organize a marketing plan or like what are different ways you've specifically used it and how? What is like one prompt and can you kind of walk us through that?
Yes, and I'm going to back up a second and say if you have never used it, ChatGPT does have a free version. That's a great beginner option. You get out there, and it's funny. You'll start out saying, "Can you please write this? Please and thank you." People want to be really polite. I always think that's funny because it is a computer, a robot of sorts. But one thing you can ask AI to do is introduce yourself. You can say, "Hey, my name is Macy. I run a calligraphy and engraving business in Macon, Georgia, and I need to write a marketing plan." It'll say, "Okay, great. What do you want me to do?" Something along those lines. And you can say, "Ask me 10 questions about my business to help us get started, and you can learn more." And it'll say, who is your target client? What services do you offer? What geographic region do you serve? And it'll ask so many things that maybe you wouldn't think to explain about yourself. But that's a great foundation in saying, okay, now that you have this information, I want to write 10 blog posts, scan some best practices for SEO in my area, and come up with some ideas. And that's a great way just to get some topics. Like you're saving so much time, just like you said, Haley, using it as a personal assistant because it can help you brainstorm, it can help you plan. We're going on a trip this summer, and I've had it help plan some of our itinerary. So you can use it across the board for anything, but you don't have to be scared to try it.
I love that is your approach to artist intel. I just really think it's brilliant. And because of you, I actually started using ChatGPT, especially like this is the visual that comes to me. I feel like my brain sometimes is like a ball of yarn. And if I want
Mhm.
to get something out, I'm like, oh, here's the ball. Can you just untangle it? And I will literally just type stream of consciousness like into it, and it will help sift and sort my thoughts and my ideas whenever I'm like stumped on something. So if you are also an overthinker, ChatGPT, I feel like is your new best friend. And I owe all that to you, girl. Like you really, I'm so anti-technology. It gives me the heebie-jeebies, but I love it now. So thank you for that gift.
No, that's awesome. I just think in the creative space, people are really hesitant to hand over or try something that is really run by a computer, but it can save you time. It can give you ideas. And you can even say, no, I don't like that. Let's pivot. You can have a conversation with it in a way that's only beneficial to you.
And the crazy thing is, if you do have an account, which I did the free version every time, don't do that. Do the account so it gets to, there's a free version that you can sign up for so it remembers you. That's basically what I'm saying here. I do that so that whenever I log in, it knows all of our history. I've had the hi, I'm Macy, I'm a calligraphy artist
Mhm.
conversation before. And I've actually made rules with ChatGPT. I'm sure you've done this too, where instead of saying, hi, can you please type this email to be professional, blah, blah, blah. I set a rule and I said, hey, ChatGPT, every time I just write the letter E with a dash, that means I want you to write a professional email that's warm and fuzzy and end it like this. So now I just type E and like word vomit and go. And to your point, it saves me time. So I can then spend it in the studio. And for you, I'm sure it's you can now do what you love with your calligraphy business.
Absolutely. Yep.
So
It has a
cool.
memory.
It does have a memory. Now, I want to get back into some calligraphy, right? So we were doing all of this and the hand lettering. When did the engraving come in? Because that is so cool to me.
Thank you. Engraving, looking back now, I didn't know that was a job. I didn't know that was an option. But when you get in that calligraphy world, it feels like I'm the only one. And then when you get into it, you realize there are lots of people doing this. And I think it's just the next step of what you can do. And it wasn't always so popular. Even the tools that I started learning with, it's been about 4 years ago, the first tool that I used got the job done, but not even talking about my own skill set. Like now I know I need a brushless motor and I need it to reach this RPM, or there's some technicalities and capabilities that I need in tools that really have developed because of the engraving industry. What I do is hand engraving versus laser engraving, and it just gives me so much more control over depth and size and material. And I say no surface is safe because really anything that I do calligraphy is the foundation for, but I can use different tools to personalize that item no matter what the material is.
Yeah, that's so cool. I think that's something that's really unique that I see you doing when you've expanded into different projects. So you've gone from calligraphy to engraving and you've done a lot of different things. How do you maintain your brand and your image and like what you're selling to people when you do start to incorporate different offers and it's not just one thing anymore?
Oh, good question. Because it is just me and my business, I think being authentic, like I am my brand. So even though there are different services, and y'all probably wouldn't know this because I wasn't offering it when we met, but I started out doing rental signs for mirrors. So, like calligraphy on mirrors for seating charts, weddings, welcome signs. And that was like the backbone of what started my business in late 2019, early 2020. And then COVID hit. And No one was getting married, no one was renting signs. And I held on to that for a little bit because it's what I knew. And I was doing envelopes. And maybe for my mom at some point, if she wanted it, I would address envelopes. I don't touch them anymore. It is so tedious and time consuming. And at the time, that's what I thought calligraphy was, and that's all it could be, but I didn't enjoy it. And it took me a while to starting to really say no to that. But across the years of what I've offered, I've just kind of presented as the brand. And when you're authentic and when you have the right clients and you treat them right, they're doing the marketing for you. If you are true to who you say you are and delivering a great product, even though I've shifted services over the years, I've had no issue with clients understanding because they grew with me.
And you do have such a good brand, truly. Like you are yourself through and through. Even in meeting you in person, I'm like, wow, like Macy is exactly who she says she is in all the most fabulous of ways. Now, I would love to know, and please share with the class, what are some of the incredible brands that you've gotten to collaborate with over the last few years?
Oh boy, I'm actually gonna, I don't know if we need to cut this. I'm gonna pull up my website actually because I've listed them. And honestly, it started, I want to say my first brand was Belk. And if you're from the South, people say Belks. Belks was my first live event, actually. And I remember getting that inquiry and thinking, this is the only place we were allowed to school shop growing up. My grandma had the Belks card, and that is where we went. So I was so excited, and I engraved perfume. So the way it works in a retail space is typically the brand hires me. Anyone that purchases, it's a gift with purchase. So they buy perfume, I engrave it on the spot to go home with. That's how that works. But I've worked with Belk, Nordstrom, Atlanta Style Weddings has had a feature, Killian Paris, and then outside of more beauty retail brands, I've actually done some corporate events. Whiskeys of the World is a nationwide tour where they promote some whiskey brands. Cox Automotive had a corporate event where I go and a lot of CEOs and executive leaders, and it is just such a special gift. People don't expect that. They've never seen it before, but the brands that I've worked with, it blows my mind looking back where I started and where I am now. And some brands require an NDA. So they're having an event and they can't tell people who's coming or what you're working on. And some of those have been also really fun, but I do try to post and share. As soon as I've worked with one, I like to get it out there. And because I did work with one specifically, philosophy, like perfume, fragrance, beauty, and they gave me a goodie bag that was just like the influencers they got. And so they treat me really well. And I've just loved getting to know the back end of what brand events look like versus working in my studio.
Yeah, I think that's so cool. You mentioned that as soon as you go to an event, you like to post about it, share about it. Can you maybe touch on your marketing strategy in general in terms of like different touch points, like social media? Like, how are you getting new collaborations, finding new clients? What is your social media strategy?
Yes, social media marketing as a whole is fun to me. I've worked in a corporate Marcom space before, and so I understand a lot of the metrics, but the social media and marketing is really part of a creative outlet with my calligraphy and engraving. We use ChatGPT to come up with some plans, but I do focus on what is bringing in revenue. And so social media is great and posting on Instagram is cool, but I know that focusing on my website and SEO first before I post on Instagram and Facebook, that's what's bringing in more leads. That's what clients are actually looking at before they book with you. So last year, I hired a fractional CMO to help me understand the nitty gritty on my website and marketing and learning from her. Her name is Lindsay Shoup. She is out of the Augusta area, incredible to work with. I learned what works for me and what brings people in off of Google, like Google and some online websites that have some clickbacks for me drive more traffic than Instagram. And that's hard to imagine when you can see how many followers, you can see how many people like your post. But when you get the metrics in, if you're not using Google Analytics or Google Search Console, those are certainly things to set up in your business or talk to someone about. But when you start seeing where leads and ultimately the revenue is coming from, those should be where you focus your marketing plan.
Oh, that's so genius. I feel like so many of us solely rely on social media for our website
Mhm.
traffic. But there's, like you said, like there's a lot of events, there's other engravers, people like brides. I can just see someone going online, just being like engravers in my area, and you coming up right away because you knew not to rely solely on social media. And also, you have such a great product to share. So, oh, you said a few things there. The first one I want to, can we just talk about what a fractional CMO
Fractional
is?
CMO, fractional
Genius.
uh
Because then, like, you can just hire her, like, just for
corporate
a little
marketing
bit.
officer, chief marketing officer is what it would stand for, I guess. But I'm going to say defer to Lindsay's website if you want some more information on that. I know she's got some things in the works right now, but it's essentially like a one-on-one marketing coach was the experience I had where we go through and look very closely at what are my competitors doing, what keywords am I ranking for that other people aren't, and for example, something I found is a lot of people don't know the word engraving. They don't really know what they're searching for when they're looking for someone like me and they're typing in etching. And what I do is technically it's not etching, but that is also a keyword that brides are looking for, brands are looking for. And that's one example of where I had to target in what are people searching on Google. And I want to add to what I said too about social media. People should use social media like a search engine. That's how Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest work now. It's come a long way since the hashtag days. But like long form captions on Instagram should have keywords. Like when people search on there, it's not just like throwback Thursday anymore. Like you should have some information and keywords in your posts that pull people. That's how you get on a For You page or something like that. It's a lot more complex than people think.
Yeah, I think that's so interesting. And I love that you're really diving into just across the board everything you've shared. I love that you're diving into the numbers and the analytics, not just the vanity metrics of social media, because I think the first, I don't know, I don't want to say the first step, but I think what so many people mistakenly do is they focus so much on, I'm going to keep making reels. I'm going to put all my time. Instagram is a time suck. And I think people spend so much time there thinking it'll eventually pay off. And that's not to say it's not worth it in some ways. But when you see huge amounts of traffic coming from Google, it's time to invest in even better SEO because that's where people are coming from. So I love that you're really focusing on analytics and sorry. I was like holding that in for a while. I love that you're really focusing on analytics. Is there anything else that has come up through diving into the numbers, the back end, the tech, and analyzing your business more strategically?
Yes, and one thing too about the vanity metrics, it's easy to get in that kind of loop. Everyone does it. Like I had a reel go viral and it's happened a couple times, but the most recent one, that's not what, that's not equaling sales. It equaled a lot of comments of people saying, "Why would you do this?" And I can't believe people want to disagree and argue on there. And so that recent one got about 2 million views, but that doesn't mean it brought in leads and questionnaires and stuff like that. I'm trying to think more about kind of the metrics that I've looked at, but what I've learned are a lot of basics that I manage my own website now. And it's not that you need coding or anything. You just need to understand how Google works and how search engines work. And there's free information out there on YouTube and people teaching it on TikTok that I think there's really no excuse that people can't get out there and get their brand seen by their target clients if you do the work.
Okay, I feel like we need to have you on for just a master class. Also, have you guys ever Googled yourselves? Ever? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I always want to see what comes up.
I feel like everyone needs to just go ahead and give themselves a Google because if you're
Mhm.
not showing up, like especially, I don't know, I just did it recently and I was surprised by how much I did find. And it was actually all through Pinterest.
Oh,
Probably a
yeah.
thousand Pinterest photos showed up and I had no idea. But that's good. If you look me up, you're able to see my work, just as I'm sure if I looked you up, Macy and Haley, like you guys would come up too.
One thing
Okay.
on that is ask your audience, do an Instagram poll or something and say, hey, if you were looking for someone like me, what would you type in Google? And
Yeah.
you would be really surprised at what people type because for me, they were not typing hand engraving for live events. They're looking at unique party favors for weddings or glass etching. And that's not something I would ever write a blog post about, but I know now the vocabulary is different when you're kind of an expert in the space versus you're a shopper.
Exactly. And that's actually something I did too, because when I started my coaching business, randomly ranked for business coach for artists and didn't realize other things people were searching for, but the power of SEO. So I randomly searched for that. I was number one on Google for like most people.
Yay.
And so I started getting all of these clients overseas and like all these different people. And then I started asking, okay, what else were you searching? Because now that I realized SEO is a thing and it's bringing in clients, that's exactly what I did, even with my current clients. I was like, how did you find me? What were you looking for? And I think that's a really good route to go because then, like you said, you didn't know people were searching for the word etching and you can write a blog post about it.
Now, Macy, I have a question for you about your personal life. So, you have this full-time job and it's, I'm sure, very time consuming. You're also doing this and it's like your creative passion. How are you navigating like family time, friendships? Where are you squeezing in time for Macy? Tell me more about that.
Ironically, my word for the year this year was rest. Because the last couple years, like I really have been running. And when you're on fire for what you're doing, you've got to put in the hours. No one is just overnight success for it. There's a lot of work you don't see happening. But otherwise, I love to be outside. Like morning walks are just about non-negotiable. My husband and I both love to get out. I garden, I hunt, I play golf. We just like to be active. I don't do idle very well. So there are even times I'll say, I'm not taking any more clients this month. And I'll have a few spare hours and I'm like, gosh, what am I doing? Whether it's business or like not, I like to stay busy and get my hands dirty no matter what it is.
Yeah. I love that. I think it's really one, it's great to hear that someone else also feels like I love to be busy, but I think it's great that you're also making the time to realize what those things are outside of work. Because I think that's something a lot of people, I don't know, I feel like a lot of business owners go into that phase of hustle, and I think it's so admirable that you're now in the rest phase. I'd love to ask, did you come to that on your own? Did you hit any burnout? Were you like, how did you come to the point of being like, I need to take maybe not take a step back, but I need to focus on rest a little bit more?
Oh, absolutely. The burnout is, and I think I've been on a roller coaster of it for a while, especially not necessarily changing offers, but really finding what my groove is in the industry. The rest, I've picked a word of the year for a few weeks and then moved on. Never thought about it again, but this is
Hmm.
one that I think came a little bit more from faith and biblical truth that like being busy all the time doesn't mean success. And having a full calendar isn't something you necessarily strive for. Taking downtime, taking care of yourself, spending time with loved ones around you, or even just trying new things. If I'm in a lull in my business or not feeling motivated, doing something outside of it is what sparks more ideas and brings new things to life. So taking some downtime and slowing down a little bit meant saying no to certain projects. Kind of like I said about envelopes, like I was burning the midnight oil, staying up writing envelopes, knowing I didn't like it. So picking the things that really make me excited in my business and saying no gave me some wiggle room in other places in my life where I can spend time with family or I can go outside and just not be going nonstop.
I love that you pinpointed the spiritual aspect of this. And I know that your faith is a really huge part of your life. And it's funny that you had enough discipline just to realize before things got bad, like, whoop, I need to put up some
Mhm.
parameters. I need to start saying no. Because I don't know about y'all, but I never actually know that I'm burnt out until I'm like literally at my wit's end. And I'm like, why am I so unhappy? Why is nothing going right? And it's, oh, yeah, it's because you haven't been feeding yourself, you haven't been working out, like you are just woo. So it sounds to me like you just have really good discipline. Would you say that you're a pretty disciplined person?
I am type AB. Like there are certain things where I'm like, this has to be perfect, organized, everything planned out. And then there are times when I've gotten to the point where done is better than perfect. And
Yep.
that's an okay place to be in a lot of spaces. I have learned though that being disciplined in specific areas gives you more freedom elsewhere. When you sit down, do the top three tasks, do the big item, whatever that is, I've spent longer thinking about things than it actually takes to do it or get it
Right.
done. So being disciplined just to stick to deadlines or things that I know are going to make me feel better, getting a workout in, it gives you freedom in other places. And until you've experienced that, I think that sounds confusing or like it doesn't make sense. But when you start doing that and get in that kind of schedule, you understand there's a lot more time in your day than you think.
Yeah, and I think it goes in line with boundary setting too. It sounds like that's something you've set up for yourself. I think you have to have some level of boundary. Is that something you've thought about with your business?
I have, and I only have those boundaries because I got to the place where I was burnout or I said yes to too many projects. And sometimes it's a fine line. I'm still really learning where those boundaries are, but taking more time off at the holidays this year was a big one for me because people do wait until the last minute to buy gifts. But the last couple years, I realized it's the 20th, 21st of December, and here I am working on other people's projects and not really enjoying time off work or time with family. And you learn, I think, every season of some new little things that are helpful for you or things you don't want to do again. And it's okay to say no.
Yeah.
Mm. You always have so much wisdom, which is great for our next little bit. We are going to dive into Open Studio today. And I know you listen to the podcast. What's coming? Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, so for those of you that are tuning in for the first time, Open Studio is when we will either read aloud a question that is submitted by a listener, or we're going to dive into a topic of expertise. And one area of expertise that both Haley and I think that you really excel in is going above and beyond when working in-person events for clients. And I know that you've done some educational reels before on this topic. We just want to open the floor for the three of us just to really discuss what are very tangible, practical ways somebody that works in live events can really take their business to the next level.
I would love to hear from y'all first what you do in your space because as we're all creatives, we do very different things. So, what does that look like for y'all?
Of course. Haley, do you want to start or should I?
Go for it.
Okay. So I feel like my very first thing whenever I do a live event, which I've had different variations. For me, it either was doing a live wedding painting or hosting an art show. My big thing is to, even though this isn't technically my house, the gallery isn't, or the wedding, really receiving guests with utmost hospitality. And that means properly greeting them, asking them how they're doing, how they know the bride and groom, or what brought them to the gallery that day, and really receiving them and trying to make a personal connection right off the bat. And then another thing I think is like clothes. Even when I was a live wedding painter, I really believed that I should dress up like a wedding guest. I didn't want to just feel like I was just treating it like a job. Like I wanted to show up and really feel like this was a special spritzy thing to be doing, to be partaking in, and a job I was really excited to receive. So I feel like off the bat, when I think about live events, those are probably two tips that I would probably start with.
Yeah, I think I would definitely second those. And then I would also say, like, under promise, over deliver. Like, anything you can just to surprise people, go above and beyond. And a lot of those things just happen day of. It can be as small as like just reading the person and understanding maybe they're not in the best mood. Can you meet them where they are? Can you do something to make, can you bring them a coffee? Like, I know that's random, but I think really being able to read people, meet them where they are, and then also just follow through. Obviously, you're providing them with a service or an item or something like that. And I think obviously doing your best work, but then also I think those personal relationships are so important too.
I love that. And Meg, we need to talk clothes because I hate picking out clothes. I don't know how to dress myself, I feel like. I don't know what looks good. So that's an area I do like to show up looking my best, but it is a stressful time. Kind of on the same page of what Haley said, under promise, over deliver. My strategy is a little more tell them exactly what they're getting. Like they want to know what they're paying for and then deliver 1% more. And so for me, I show up, I do exactly the things that maybe was in their package or their contract. And for brides and grooms, I like to take a small wedding gift. Maybe it's an engraved ornament. I send a thank you letter as soon as they book. So I've had brides say, like, how did you get that here so fast? But when you're prepared and you have maybe not even just one offer, but two or three little things that you know are easy and don't take a lot of time where you can show true appreciation for booking that client. If it's a retail event, I may follow up with the point of contact with some photos and say, here's how many bottles I engraved, and this sales associate was great to work with. But just being thoughtful is,
Totally.
it's not hard, yeah, and it goes a long way.
I also think it's important for artists, maybe there's some musicians listening, anytime that you're in front of people, those are all potential lifelong customers of yours. You just need the introduction. And I feel like that should probably change your mindset when you're moving through a room. People aren't just coming to you, Macy, to get something engraved. Like, they might be hiring you for their own wedding 6 months or
Mhm.
a year later, or Mima is having a 60th birthday and they want you to be there because they just felt so connected to you. Now, I'm curious within Still Open Studio, just real quick, how do you navigate when people want to come up and talk to you when you're like trying to get the job done?
I used to be so nervous about it to the point where I would have my husband sit in the studio and, hey, talk to me while I'm working on a project. Because in some ways, there is a lot of focus that goes to it. You don't want to spell someone's name wrong or put something that's permanent. Once it's engraved, you don't want that to be incorrect. But so much practice and really being clear with the, like, whoever hired you, whoever's running the event, the bride, the brand, in, do you want just names, do you want initials, do you want people to be able to pick? And maybe some people will come up and want every member of their family listed on what they're getting. But setting some expectations, for me, I like answering the questions, and it is almost a performer's high when people are lined up at my table and they want to take pictures and videos and ask about how it happened, because I spent the first couple years of my business working solo in my studio, that being out in front of people just like takes me back, being on stage or competing, doing something like that. It feels good, and I enjoy the one-on-one interaction that comes with talking to people and giving them an entire experience, not just that one favor.
I
Yeah.
love that you said the word performer's high. Can we just talk about that for a little bit? Like, you are putting on a performance at the end of the day, right? Like,
It
it's a
is,
whole
yeah, and
thing.
especially like for weddings or something, you're part of the entertainment. People are coming up. It's not, hey, let me grab the bag of bird seed walking out the door, when that used to be a thing, you throw it. But whatever the little favor is at weddings, like they're getting a full-on experience. It's something personal. It's something with their name on it. They're taking it home. It's not something that ends up in the junk drawer a few weeks later that you just bought on Etsy, and it's not customized to your guests. Because I've had brides say, my guests aren't going to drink wine, but they would love shot glasses. And brands might say, oh, compact mirrors or lipsticks are great. They know their clients, and you're an extension of their team, putting on whatever show they ask of you.
Yeah, and I love that you're getting that live positive feedback too, because like you said, you used to work only in your studio. And I think there is something, although it can be hard in a lot of ways, performing and doing this in front of other people, I do think it's something a lot of professionals, creatives, entrepreneurs, they don't get always to see a lot of times their final product like being in the hands of people, seeing the process and delighting in the final result and all of that. And sometimes that's what we need, just to remind ourselves, wow, we are really talented, we should keep going, like this is great. And so I think sometimes putting yourself out there in front of people, whether it be at an event like something you do, or even just showing your art in person or doing things in person, I think can be really impactful, just to have that client to client interaction and just a reminder of how like much of an impact you're making.
Mm.
Oh, it really is. It makes people feel special.
Yeah.
I also feel like a good practice for going above and beyond is something that you said, Macy, when you asked your husband to basically practice with
Mhm.
you. And I feel like that's not, people might think that's ridiculous, but no, if you're going to be working with clients, get in front of the mirror, ask your husband, ask your roommate or your friend, literally practice interacting. You should always have 5 go-to questions to keep conversation going. Oh, where are you traveling in from? What's your favorite memory with so and so or this brand? And that's a great ChatGPT prompt, by the way. If you guys are
For sure.
if you're uncomfortable like speaking to people, you should really do that. And then I think another thing is, especially if you're doing something that has to do with a couple, like a wedding, or a brand where the founder is going to be present
Mhm.
at the event, you need to do your research. That is also a part of what they are paying for. Backstock them on socials, get to know their story so that when you're in their presence, you can talk to them like an old friend instead of a fan. Like you're there as a colleague, as someone that they can lean on. So I feel like those are probably a few other fun ways to just go above and beyond. Do y'all have any more ideas?
I think that was great. I would love to move on to our tidbit section. So, Macy, I know you listen, so you probably know what the tidbits are, but just for listeners, it is recommendation that has helped us in our lives, in our business, in our relationships. It really could be anything from books to apps to products. So, I will let you kick it off if you have one. If not, I'm happy to go first.
Yeah, sure. I'll go ahead. I thought about this a lot because sometimes I'll do something and I'm like, oh, wow, why wasn't I doing that before? And then it's hard to remember later on. But one thing in terms of marketing or just having a good repository of materials for yourself, use the iPhone albums feature. I have a recipe album. Every time I screenshot something, I can search the word like preheat or whatever, and all those are going to come up. You use those keywords, but I have an album for edited photos, edited videos. If you make a reel on Instagram, you can save it before you post it, and you have that pre-edited kind of video that you can recycle and use later. One piece of content can become five other things. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Save yourself time. I love the albums feature. And you could, I split mine up. I have brands, I have brides, I have edited videos, favorite photos, just all the tools are there. It's great to use them.
I love that. I need to take that. I feel like that is one thing I'm very disorganized in is like my camera roll, keeping track of content, all of that. So I'm taking that one. Meg, what's your tidbit?
Oh, goodness. I was afraid you're going to go to me next. So the one I have, it's not as amazing as Macy's, but I think it's so good. Have you guys heard of the lip gloss Lano Lips? Have you ever heard of this before? Yeah, cool. Me neither. My friend just gifted it to me, and I think it's like a European thing. And it is the best lip gloss I have ever used. It's like balmy, but also it could be used anywhere on your body. Like you can put it on your cuticles. I'm sure you guys have seen this, but I think it's like viral in places not here in the US. Anyways, my good friend Heather loves to keep a pulse on all things that are trending, and she treated it to me the other month, and I'm obsessed. And I would love to send you guys some because it is so good and it tastes like Krispy Kreme donuts.
Say the name again.
It's called Lano Lips, Lanolips. I hope that's correct.
Okay.
If not, I will definitely include the link in our Substack that drops on Wednesday. But yeah, it's like insane. If you like Summer Fridays, I think this is like Summer Fridays times 10.
Okay, good to know. I will be checking that out.
Yeah, not as helpful as Macy's, but at least your lips will look real luscious. Okay.
That's a good rec. I feel like mine's a little different than both of y'all's, which is hopefully good. So today I met with a friend and we do these monthly marketing power hours. We don't really call it that, but I think it's just if you can find anyone that is either a creative, an entrepreneur, just someone that somewhat gets what you're doing and doesn't think it's crazy that you're posting on Instagram every day, we just once a month have 1 hour and meet over lunch and just talk shop. And like we go in like today, I was like, I have no idea what I want to talk about. And she was like, what do you want to work on? Or what's stressing you out? And then it leads to all these ideas and just having one other person to bounce ideas off of when you're so used to working alone who gets it in some way or even is in like an adjacent industry but also works for themselves is so powerful. So it's not like a crazy idea, but I do think like having something on the calendar to like intentionally meet with a friend, but like to talk about your businesses can make a huge difference. And so I don't know. I just encourage people to go get coffee with someone and like actually put it in your calendar to be reoccurring because it can make a big difference.
I love
Like an
that.
accountability buddy.
Yeah.
You're
Um,
that for me. Also, Haley, you just broke your own streak. There was no book recommendation, ladies, this time. Haley
did I
has
recommend a book
recommended,
last
I'm
time?
pretty sure you did. Yeah, you are my book queen. Okay, power hour with a
Okay.
fellow creative. That's awesome.
I can always
Macy,
recommend a book. So if people
yeah,
are sad.
No, I love that. I think this isn't necessarily a tidbit, but this is like almost my motto for things.
Mhm.
Avid DIYer, like I'll attempt anything before I ask someone else to do it, but you can try anything. I feel like I had a good quote for this and now it's escaping me, but like anything's hard. No one knows how to do something the first time they do it. That's it. You don't know how to do something until you actually do it and try it. And that's how calligraphy for me started and how engraving started. But a lot of people will say, I can't because I don't know how. At some point, the best people at it did not know how either, but it's worth a try. Everything is worth a try.
Which
Yeah.
is crazy because if you had that defeatist mentality, you would not have this flourishing business if you stopped at the I don't
Mhm.
know how. Also, people, the fun parts, the journey of figuring out, like Macy, I'm sure you can remember way back when you were like filling up pages and pages of just doodles because it was exciting to learn.
Yeah, I do. I have one of them. It's in a notebook right here, actually. And it's like, why you have to look back and laugh because everyone starts somewhere, but that's exactly it. I started pen and paper. It's not a lot of fancy tools. Probably was watching videos online, but yeah, I would say if you're someone that does things visually, keep records and look back at them because it feels like slow sometimes. It feels like a slow journey, but you will see the progress. If you keep practicing and don't quit, you'll see a difference.
Normally, this will cap off our episode, but because we adore you and you've been on a founder's getaway, I would just love if we capped off today's episode with just hearing what is Macy's North Star? What is one thing that you're hoping to lock in with business, something that you want to try, especially given this topic of figuring things out? What is your North Star?
Great question. I think I struggled with this at the retreat as well, just because I like to try so many different things. But for me, it is being thoughtful and making other people feel
Yeah.
seen and special. And gift giving, I would say, is my love language. And so my business ties directly into that. I like to make other people happy and for kind of the future of my business, I've got a few kind of ideas in mind. People say that and then they don't give anything away, but I'll just flat out say I have been practicing painting and it's not a route that I ever thought I would go into. And I'm not sure that it'll be traditional paint on canvas, but if you follow me on Instagram or have seen any videos, I've been painting some wine glasses or bourbon bottles and it just feels good to add a new offer and for a neutral girl like me, some pops of color.
I love it. I think that's amazing. Keep exploring new things. I think that's like the motto of today's.
Yeah.
Keep pushing yourself, trying new things.
How many different ways can I say that? You're right.
Exactly. Macy, can you share how people can learn more about you? So your social media, website, all the different ways they can work with you.
Yes, it is MacyKendallCo.com, MACIE. It's the exact same handle on every platform. And if a new platform comes out, the first thing I do is go ahead and save that handle because you don't want to be waiting a few months and not see it. But I'm on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Pinterest, and my website. Best way to get in touch with me is on the contact form of my website. It's all set up. Anything, no surface is safe. Anything can be customized. I would love to work with you.
Uh, Amazing. Macy Franklin Temples. We absolutely loved having you here on the podcast today. Thank you so much for taking the time. And to all of our listeners, thank you for joining us. Go ahead and let us know what you thought of today's show. Leave a comment or review, or better yet, share this episode with a friend. We'll meet you right back here on the Founders Society podcast.